privilege, but it's an honor to be in your company. And I really have enjoyed following your work for many years. And like most scholars in the ancient theological field, I have all kinds of questions I would like to ask Zecharia Sitchin.
You mean my books did not make it all clear?
Well, yes, it made it all clear, but I've got a few more questions yet.
Okay, we'll do our best.
First of all, the word Yahweh, one of the words are names of God in the Hebrew. Is this to be understood as a proper name, or is Yahweh, in fact, in Hebrew, describing something?
It is a descriptive term.
This is what I thought.
Yeah, it's not the proper name.
And could you explain to me exactly what it is describing?
It is usually translated, I am who I am, something like that. But more accurately, the tense, which in Hebrew it says eheyeh, asher eheyeh, is a future tense. And therefore it means I will be whoever I will be in context of the whole biblical tale, and with the throwback to the Sumerian information that I provide in my books. It really means I can be whoever I choose to be. And this is explained in my latest book, Divine Encounters, who really God with the capital G was, is, and will be.
Yes. That, I think, is a very important point that Christians need to understand, because so many Christians today, especially fundamentalists, have a set concept in their mind, a pat religious belief system, and it does not seem to fit with the ancient and original Hebrew. And that's why I'm mostly concerned with establishing what did the original Hebrew words mean, and try and get a better handle on where we're going in our Western world religion. There was a professor I heard once talking about Yahweh and why I was interested in it, and he said it also implied stored power that when it is released, it has something to do with power being released, the creative power being released. Does that?
Well, that would not flow from this term, Yahweh. That is whatever, an expansion into this particular professor's theology or beliefs. But obviously, if you contemplate, first of all, with the logic that God granted us, God with a capital G, you would say the following. Well, here we are on this planet called Earth by us, and intelligent life evolved here, according to the Sumerians, helped along a little by the Anunnaki from Nibiru, but there was evolution, which is, by the way, described very scientifically in the first chapter of Genesis. All those who think that there's a contradiction between Bible and evolution are totally wrong. So here we evolved, and we philosophically and otherwise say there is God, a creator of heaven, of earth, and of everything here. Now we say maybe there was, there is, there could be definitely life on Mars, another planet. Another question is, let's say so. Let's say that some beings evolved on Mars with our mental capacity. Did they have their own God? In other words, is there God of Earth and God of Mars and God of another planet? Now you say, no, that doesn't make sense. There must be one God, whatever we mean by that, of our whole solar system. Earth, Mars, doesn't matter. You say, okay, now we are discovering, which was logically, mathematically presumed before, we are discovering that there could be other solar systems and other planets around other stars or suns, and life could have evolved there. And Zecharia Sitchin and Jordan are sitting and discussing this whole issue. And they say, well, yes, that solar system where the seventh planet exists, etc., they have their God, their creator of... But we have our God. In other words, each solar system has a creator. Does this make sense? No. So you end up, if you really have an open mind, with saying there must be one power, to use the term that you mentioned from that professor, one power, one creator, one God, whatever we mean by that, that created everything, and not only created, in my opinion, but even determined the course of events from beginning to end, and not only in faiths like as ours, but at the end of my book, Divine Encounters, I give a translation of a Hebrew prayer, which is called the Lord of the Universe, which clearly says that this concept of Lord of the Universe, not of a solar system, not of a planet, was there before anything began, and will be there after everything ends. And, you know, a conference dealing with catastrophes might as well hear this, what I'm saying.
Yes.
That God will be there even after the last catastrophe.
Yes.
So this is really the concept of God. Now, how does it fit in with the Sumerian tales of Anunnaki, who came here from another planet in our own solar system? How does it dovetail with the tales in the Bible? It dovetails by saying that this entity, whether it has a shape, whether it has a form, I don't know, acts through emissaries. And this is the meaning, according as I understand it and expound it in the book in the last chapter, this is the meaning of what God answered Moses. He says, I can be whoever I want to be. So I can be Enlil, I can be Enki.
Makes sense to me.
Because they are only my emissaries. Yes. And this, I think, is the real truth of what we have to understand from the Bible.
Yes. I attended a lecture once with Lee and Vivian Gladden, who I think I had mentioned before to you in passing, that wrote a book about the same subject. I think it was called Heirs of the Gods, where they talked about the celestials or the extraterrestrials or whatever, and they made the point that there were only two scriptures in the Bible, both Old and New, where the word God implied a divine, overshadowing, creative force in all creation, as opposed to all the other places, except those two, that talked about Elohim, which was different from the word...
These are gods with a small g.
Right.
This must be understood. These are gods with a small g, who in turn were the emissaries of God with the capital G. And in the New Testament, on which I'm not as an expert as I'm on the Old Testament, but even there, there is the statement that I'm Alpha and I'm Omega. I'm the first
beginning.
And I'm the last. I'm the beginning and I'm the end, which is exactly what the Hebrew prayer states.
That's a fascinating... there were so many questions in relation to that, but I'm very interested in the sons of God also. That is, were the Elohim the sons of God, or were the Elohim
they were the Anunnaki,
sons of God?
And it is their sons born on earth who married the daughters of Adam.
So then we could say then what you're saying is the Elohim were the ones that in the Hebrew is referred to as the sons of God.
No, the Elohim are what the Sumerians called Anunnaki.
Okay.
Those who from heaven to earth came. They are Elohim in the Bible. Indeed, when you encounter this term and mostly in connection with the so-called pagan gods that are also called Elohim in the Bible. Indeed, at some point, Joshua gives the Israelites, before they cross the Jordan into the promised land, they say, you now have a choice, like make up your mind. Do you want to follow the Elohim of Egypt? Do you want to follow the Elohim of Mesopotamia? Or do you want to follow Yahweh as the monotheistic concept of one God that rules, controls, designs, etc., everything?
You know, the prophet Daniel in the Old Testament, I think it's 4:23 in Daniel, says that he was given a vision by God where he saw the earth, and it was in a total, the words were, a desolation, a destruction and a desolation of the world, in a vision taking him back to an ancient time. Can't remember exactly how the words were in Daniel, but that reminded me of Genesis 1:2, where it says that God created the heavens of the earth, or Elohim created the heavens of the earth, and the earth
I raise
was,
my hand
yeah.
to tell you that. I mean, indirectly, you raise a very, very fundamental question for biblical scholars, and thus for theologians. In Hebrew, the sentence, the verse says, Bereshit, which is translated in the beginning. Elohim, God, created the heaven and the earth. And many, many theologians, for generations, even goes back to Talmudic times, even the time of the temple, the second temple, asked how could it be that the story of creation, of beginning, starts letter of the alphabet, divine encounters, is that if you add the Aleph, which may have dropped somewhere along the rewritings, etc., of the Bible, it becomes that not Bereshit, Av Reshit, the father of beginning, created Elohim, the heaven and the earth.
Oh, okay.
So the supreme creator created the Anunnaki, Elohim, the heaven and the earth.
And that is a whole different subject.
That I really hope that through this interview and all all the exposure that it will thus give, have the say in these matters, would really consider this suggestion by me that if you add the Aleph, you give a whole new dimension to this first sentence of the first book of the Bible.
Very important, I feel. The second scripture, where it says, and in that time God created the heavens and the earth was without form and void. I am told, as I have researched this, that it can be equally and legitimately translated a different way. Rather than the earth was without form and void, it can be translated the earth was a waste and a desolation, or became a waste and a desolation, implying that there was already an earth situated, then came a great destruction, and then the earth became a waste and a void. So that the implications, from what I can gather, is that Genesis 1:1 is saying what you have established, and then Genesis 1:2 is saying that the earth that we have today is a recreation or a new situation because it was an earth in former times that was destroyed.
Well, there are these interpretations of how to understand that verse, but of course there is a Sitchin interpretation.
Right.
Because it is clear, not just to me, to all scholars, that the story of creation and then continuation, the Tower of Babel, the Garden of Eden, and of course the deluge, the Great Flood, are really versions, writings. People was a Sumerian. And therefore, if these are versions of the Sumerian epic of creation, then the words to celestial battle and the collision, and therefore the interpretation that you mentioned, though it is not linked to the words or to the name Tiamat, links to the same meaningful result. In other words, that Earth is the result of a celestial catastrophe. There was a catastrophe from which our
The
planet
Earth
emerged.
came from.
Right.
Yeah.
So it leads to the same conclusion in different ways, and maybe it's good that
Yeah.
two approaches lead to the same conclusion.
Yeah, I have always felt that there was most likely another civilizations, ancient civilizations, even before, and this is just my own conjecture, even before the ones that we know of.
Definitely, you're absolutely right on that, because even according to the Sumerian tales, and especially, many texts, but especially the so-called King List, that deals with the antediluvial cities, and with the 10 the flood. So all the indications are that they recognized, referred to, and accepted this fact that there was a civilization, but a civilization of the gods, because those cities pre-diluvial are spoken of as cities of the gods.
Right.
After the deluge, there came cities of men with the help of the Anunnaki. So there was a time of a, let's call it a divine civilization, divine culture. As you, I'm sure, know, in the Egyptian beliefs, the who paralleled the Chaldean Berosus, they lived more or less at the same time, and the heirs of Alexander in what became eventually hired a Babylonian priest to write the history of the world of mankind based on the Mesopotamian. In Egypt, hired the Egyptian priest Manetho to do the same. But the versions are both, by the way, spoke of a series of calamities that preceded the deluge. It's not clear at what intervals.
Calamities that
The most remembered one, right? Berosus indeed the years of demigods, which meant offspring of the Anunnaki, like the sons of gods. So what you are stating very succinctly.
I talked with the president of the American Rabbinical Association, who was a good friend of mine, and we used to carry on long conversations over the phone. And I asked him about, in Genesis 9, I believe it is, where this is after the flood of Noah's day, God says to Noah to go forth with his sons and daughters, sons and wives, and go forth and multiply and replenish the earth. Re obviously means do again. And yes, that's understood. It was to, and obviously to redo the earth because God had destroyed so much of the. Then again, if you go back, as I said to him, if you go back to Genesis 1, I believe it's 28, where God creates Adam and Eve, and he's telling the original couple to go forth, reproduce, and replenish the earth. Do it again.
No, the word again does not appear there. It says, "Pru urvu mal'u et haaretz." Be fruitful in terms of having offspring.
El being one of the, was El in fact a Hebrew word as such, or was El existing before the Hebrew language?
El is the Hebrew for what, Hebrew stems from Akkadian.
Okay.
All Semitic languages stem from Akkadian. Canaanite, Phoenician, Moabite, etc. Language that came after. An Assyrian text. It's almost like Hebrew. I mean, not exactly that. The Hebrew word El, God or divine being, really is from the Akkadian ILU. The lofty one. So if you want to be very precise, you have to translate wherever it says El, you have to say the lofty one. Now, I was asked...
You mean the elites? The lofty one.
You never know. You never know. Maybe elite comes from that. Yeah? Well, here's a new subject. I was asked, for example, by my brother about, he says, well, if Yahweh told Moses, who persisted to know what is your name, or to Isaac.
That's right. Yes.
So my brother said, so when Abraham referred to whoever told him, leave your home, go to Canaan, do this, do that.
Who was he talking to?
No, when he went to his wife, when he went to Isaac,
Okay.
and said, I'm supposed to take you to Mount Moriah.
Who did he say?
Who did he say told me that?
Yeah.
Good question, if he had no name. I said, well, we find an answer to that because after Abraham saved his nephew Lot from the attackers who came from Mesopotamia, you know, the war of the kings of the east against the Canaanite kings. He saved him. He was met at the gates of the future Jerusalem by the high priest who offered him bread and wine. And he wanted to offer Abraham some of the booty, some of the, you know, material. And Abraham said, no, I did it because El Elyon instructed me to do it. El Elyon means the supreme El. Not the lofty one, which would be an Anunnaki, but the one who is above them, which takes you back to God with the capital G, etc., etc.
I'm appreciative of your time. Me and my particular work in examining or hidden symbolism in our modern day religious and political movements. I became fascinated about 20 years ago with the symbol of the sun as it is used by the secret societies, the fraternal orders, and especially in our political and religious symbolism today. It was fascinating to me that the sun, when you brought up that what we're talking about, or it was, I guess David Talbot even talked about the sun being Saturn, but the sun has been used, that sun symbol with the winged sun you brought out was the symbol of the Anunnaki.
Just two of them. I could choose many more. And that symbol, Hittite monuments, the symbol connecting the king, the priesthood with their gods, with the small g. That was the symbol of the planet. And as I showed on the same monument, which gives the 12 members of the solar system, you definitely see the sun, you know, with its rays, totally separate, and the symbol of the what's called the winged disk. And Earth.
Okay.
Earth,
so you see them simultaneously together.
On the same depictions, which are repeated and repeated, and you see Earth as the seventh planet. In many instances, you see Venus as the eighth planet with 8 rays. You see Mars as the 6th planet with 6 rays. So everything corroborates what I've written.
Well, the sun, as I said, is a particularly important symbol to me because I see it in so many political and religious depictions and symbols. And of course, with the coming of Christianity, the concept that the Messiah is God's son, and I believe that there can be a comparison made between the ancient veneration of the sun, S-U-N in our language, as opposed to a veneration of the individual, S-O-N. And I think probably that has some problems with our languages and interpretation. But what do you think about the symbol of the sun itself and the importance to the ancients, like the Sumerians, etc.?
Well, if you're talking about the winged disk, then this stood for the planet from which the Anunnaki came. In Sumerian, the sun god, Utu in Sumerian, Shamash in Hebrew and all the other languages, not a significant deity at all in the hierarchy. The Shamash, according to the Sumerian, and therefore further on believed by the Assyrians, Babylonians, and others, was the son of the god that in Akkadian is from sinning, but it really was from Sumerian Suen. And so this really has to do with all these misconceptions about who the ancient people whether and many books written, especially at the end of the 19th century, who R.E. then go and write the name of the pharaoh Ramses. Ramses, which means issue, emanating from Ra. So when they say the name of the pharaoh, they say Ra, but when they say the name of the god, they spell it Re. So it's Ra, because it also appears in the Bible. So they say he was the sun god. He was not the sun god. He was the god who came from the planet of millions of years, which is the parallel of Nibiru. A planet, definitely planet, not the sun. So there's so many misconceptions that it may take a century to get rid of, because it's an accumulation of 2 or 3 centuries of research.
In my collection, I have about 4 or 5, I think it's 5, 2 of them are doctoral theses, and others are articles, long, extended articles appearing in the Middle East on the word chief cornerstone. And I picked up on that. That was a fascinating study where the word chief cornerstone is translated from the Hebrew when it appears in Hebrew, which is, I think, Psalms 118:22, where Messiah is referred to as the chief cornerstone. While in the Christian Greek scriptures of the New Testament, the Messiah or Jesus is referred to twice as the chief cornerstone. That word chief cornerstone, what does it imply for the Messiah in both Psalms and in the Greek? Have you?
It is not cornerstone. It's when you lay the Pina, the head where sides meet, like in a pyramid. The ape one that is really the conduit to the heavens.
Yeah, because that's what these articles were all saying. Everyone was saying it was the pinnacle of
pinnacle.
A pinnacle.
Pinnacle.
Yes.
But not foundation stone on the
right.
ground.
Now, the big question, of course, obviously is going to be, on the back of the $1 bill, of course, is the Egyptian pyramid with the 72 stones of the 72 names of God, I believe. But the implication
with the apex floating heavenward,
right?
Yeah. Is the Masonic.
Jesus to the temple. Of the temple. I am totally sure that there's a lot of symbolism that the early
based on my understanding of.
I think that would be absolutely important for so many people in the Western world to get a better grasp on the symbolism is there anything else you might tell us about that symbol of the pinnacle or the chief cornerstone might be of importance to us, particularly in this time that we're living, when everyone seems to be especially in the Christian world, looking for the Messiah? What would be your thoughts on the concept of the Messiah being the chief? Don't
No.
Oh. Saying I think that there is an entire story here.
The second coming, the return of the kingdom of heaven, right?
Yes, return. That brings us to probably
to the conclusion of this interview.
Yeah. Well, is there anything I can have you say concerning the return of Nibiru that you?
Not yet, but
okay.
I promise you another interview.
I promise.
When I can speak about it.
Let me again say that it is not only a pleasure, but I do very much appreciate.
I leave a little for myself.
You are a giant,
Thank you.
and I
Thank you,
appreciate your
Jordan.
time. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
And thank you very much for watching. This is Jordan Maxwell.